This lesson is on factorizations and divisibility. So when we factor something, we are looking for the numbers or factors that divide evenly into another number. So for instance, the number 16 has several pairs of factors or sets of factors. If I take 1 times 16, that gives me 16. 2 times 8, 4 times 4, 2 times 2 times 4, or 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. These are all options when I'm looking for a factorization of 16. So factors will help us as we start to work with fractions in this lesson to help us to know how to write equivalent fractions. When we're doing simplifying fractions, what we're looking for is numbers that will go into both the numerator and the denominator. So it would be very helpful for us as we move forward to know just by looking at a number if 2 goes into that number, or 3 or 5 or 10, because these are the most common numbers. There are rules for 4 and for 7. The rule for 7 is really crazy, but feel free to Google it. But these are the ones we're going to focus on in this lesson. So to know if a number is divisible by 2, the term must be even, which means it has to end in a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. So it ends in an even number. Like 22 ends in a 2, so we know it's even. But 333 ends in a 3. This is an odd number, and therefore not divisible by 2. For 3, the sum of the digits are divisible by 3, so I would have to add 2 plus 4 to get 6, and obviously 3 goes into 6. Since 3 goes into 6, then 3 goes into 24. For 334, I would add 3 plus 3 plus 4, which is 10, and 3 does not go into 10 evenly, so 334 is not divisible by 3. Although if I look at this example up here, 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9, and of course 3 goes into 9, and so therefore 3 would go into 333. These two are the easiest, 5 and 10. If a term ends in a 5 or a 0, then we know that 5 goes into it, because if we were to list all of the multiples of 5, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, etc., we know that it ends in a 5 or it ends in a 0. So example would be 25 because it ends in a 5. 331 would be a non-example because it doesn't end in a 5 or a 0. And 10 is the easiest because it just has to end in a 0. So 20 would be divisible by 10 because it ends in a 0, but 335 would not be. It would be divisible by 5 because it ends in a 5, but not a 10. So for these examples, we're just going to state whether or not they're divisible by any of these numbers. So for 810, 2 would go into 810 because 0 is considered even, or 8 to 10 is an even number, and so therefore it is divisible by 2. What about by 3? If to find 3, I would take 8 plus 1 plus 0, so 8 plus 1 plus 0 is 9, and 3 goes into 9, so yes, it's divisible by 3. Is it divisible by 5? Yes, because it ends in a 0 or a 5, so it is divisible by 5. And is it divisible by 10? Yes, because it ends in a 0. So this one was divisible by all 4. For 21, is it divisible by 2? No, because it's not an even number. Is it divisible by 3? Well, 2 plus 1 is 3, and so yes, it is divisible by 3 because 3 goes into 3. 5 and 10, pretty easy to say no for both of those because it ends in a 1, and in order to be divisible by 5, it has to end in a 5 or a 0, and to be divisible by 10, it has to be ending in a 0. Last one, 45. It is not divisible by 2 because, again, this is an odd number. It is divisible by 3 because 4 plus 5 equals 9, and 3 goes into 9 evenly. It is divisible by 5 because it ends in a 5, but it is not divisible by 10 because it does not end in a 0. Go through those same steps and do these 3 questions. So press pause, do all 3, then press play to see how you did. For my first 603, it is not divisible by 2 because it's not even. It is divisible by 3 because the sum of my digits is 9, and that is divisible by 3. It is not divisible by 5 because it doesn't end in a 5 or a 0, and it is not divisible by 10 because it doesn't end in a 0. For 61, it is not divisible by 2 because it is not even. It is not divisible by 3 because 6 plus 1 is 7, and 3 does not go into 7. It is not divisible by 5 because it does not end in a 0 or 5, and it is not divisible by 10 because it doesn't end in a 0. So this one had no factors that worked. And for 200, it is divisible by 2 because it is even. It is not divisible by 3 because 2 plus 0 is 2, and 3 does not go into 2 evenly. It is, however, divisible by both 5 and 10 because it ends in a 0.